Welcome back to User Experience Points. This week we're going to be covering Dragon's Dogma. I was expecting this to be a more harsh episode since even though Dragon's Dogma is the greatest game ever created, but wait, you don't think that? Okay, hold on. So yeah, now that we're on the same page, Dragon's Dogma does have a few usability problems, and that's pretty much what I was expecting going into this video. But what I didn't expect was some actually really smart UX design choices that I never really noticed before. And hey, those are the best kind. Dragon's Dogma has one of those awesome character editors that practically requires prep work like sketches or at least a strong idea of what you're trying to make before diving in. Thankfully, the game provides a pretty good selection of presets to get you going, covering the unreal amount of customization available. How many other games can you name that have 60 hairstyles, 14 voice options, and the ability to select your posture? Oh, you thought of one? Okay, how about one that has an obtainable item that lets you completely recustomize your character's appearance whenever you want? None, of course. Because this is the best game ever. But this massive menu isn't without its flaws. Certain elements of customization can be taken a step deeper by pressing X on the 360 controller or square on the PS3. These deeper edits, like specific parts of the face or eye color, are globally labeled as details on the controls at the bottom of the screen. You'll also notice this is repeated as a flashing message with a more detailed description of the further customizations available for that part of the character. It's great that the developers clearly wanted to draw more attention to this feature, but doing it this way is just messy design. You see, animated effects like this will always get the user's attention, but can annoy them quickly, especially if the effect doesn't stop once the user acknowledges it, as is the case here. It's also worth mentioning that these messages appear incredibly close to the button that is already displaying the same information. This probably could have been solved by looking into better labeling options since details is a bit ambiguous, but I can't judge this too harshly since Dragon's Dogma is a Japanese game, meaning this usability issue could very well be a localization problem. Either way, I can say for sure there are better options than a flashing message to point out a feature that you want your users to see. Dragon's Dogma has 9 character classes called vocations that can be individually leveled up and swapped by visiting the innkeeper in the capital city. Because, I don't know, maybe his hat is magic, they never explain it. Actually selecting your class is easy enough, but since a big-ass sword-wielding warrior isn't going to equip quite the same gear as a sorcerer, part of this process involves changing your equipment. Thankfully, this is one of the better usability examples in the game. After you select your new class, you get a prompt asking if you'd like to change your equipment. This takes you to a unique screen that not only shows the equipment in your inventory, but also everything you've stored in the town to save space since you can only carry so much. Any equipment stored in town is also conveniently marked by a cute little house icon. Little touches like this are what makes all the difference in usability. The developers could have left that out and forced the player to then have to deposit what they're not using, withdraw what they want to use, then have to equip it all. But they didn't. They found the usability problem and cut it out like the snake head off of a chimera. God, this game is awesome. Managing your items was one of the UI features I thought I was going to be ragging on the most in this video. Even though I didn't remember having too much trouble with it when I was playing the game a year or two ago, what I did remember about it were some strange design choices that, when looking at it from a UX perspective, kind of set off a lot of alarm bells. See, this game effectively has 2 pause menus. The inventory is mapped to the back or select button and brings up the menu where you manage your items. The main pause menu is mapped to the start button and has everything else. This includes game options, your map screen, quests, stats, equipment, and so on. At first glance, this seems like an odd choice. Why not include item management on the main pause screen? After all, it's a nice screen. The The menus are organized into a cross pattern, keeping tabbing with the analog stick at a minimum, with the most common use cases like checking the map or changing equipment close to the center, and the remaining menus 1 or 2 tabs away. However, none of these menus needs to be accessed in the middle of a Manticore battle. That's why the inventory is on its own button. This menu is where you use healing items, craft new ones, use fast travel items, pass items between party members, and discard what you don't need so you don't become over-encumbered, which impairs your ability to climb on and stab things. This is a great example of taking use cases into consideration and understanding their context. Everything in the inventory screen needs to be done quickly so you can get back to the action, so it makes sense to map it to its own button instead of making it an item in the main pause menu that has to be selected. Plus it would ruin the nice cross. Can't have that. There's one odd design choice that leaves me a little conflicted. You can view all of your equipable items like weapons and armor in the inventory and in the equipment screen accessed from the main pause menu. When looking at your equipment in your inventory, the only thing you can do with it is either get rid of it or give it to another party member to hold. You can only equip it if you go to the equipment screen. You do at least get a nice shortcut to the equipment screen by either selecting an item or scrolling all the way down to the bottom. This is a weird overlap, but when I think about it in terms of use cases, I can understand why it had to be done. See, part of managing your inventory is making sure you're not carrying too many items. This includes equipment. If you were only able to see equipment on the equipment screen, it would turn weight management into a task that requires 2 different menus. Fair enough, so why can't you equip from the inventory? Well, changing equipment involves comparing stats in order to determine the most effective options and seeing how cool it will look on you. Those UI elements can't fit anywhere on the inventory screen. I do think that this could have been done a little bit better, and it has been done better in other games. But considering all the information that has to be processed for these 2 different tasks, I can see why that they are separated into 2 different menus, and then the problem with the equipment overlap had to be solved afterwards. Okay, sit tight. This next one is going to require some context. In Dragon's Dogma, your party includes you, the Arisen, a title that comes with surviving a dragon ripping out your heart, and up to 3 pawns. Pawns are soulless immortal beings that can be summoned from another dimension called the Rift to aid the Arisen in reclaiming his heart from the dragon. You always have your main pawn, who you get to customize with the same editor you made your character with because this is the best game ever, and 2 recruited from the Rift, which you can travel to through special stones scattered throughout the world. The neat thing here is that if you're connected to the internet, all the pawns you encounter in the Rift are the main pawns of other players. Naturally, this means you'll have a ton of potential new party members to choose from. Thankfully, there's an incredibly in-depth search tool designed to help narrow things down. Once you open the search menu, you can search by a variety of different methods like pawns made by your friends or pawns that match your current level. You can narrow things down further by selecting filters like class or important traits like whether they have healing magic, which is what I needed if I was going to survive getting that Hydra footage. The select and deselect all buttons are a nice touch that allow you to narrow down your choices to one filter more easily. Once you've narrowed things down at that point, you can choose from up to 5 pawns to summon based on even more pertinent information like their currently equipped skills. After choosing 5 of them, you can exit the menu and watch them walk on screen. This is pretty cool since now you're also browsing by appearance. You can interact with each pawn individually and learn literally everything about them, including their equipment, stats, even what enemies they fought while traveling with other players. And finally, with your new party member chosen, you have to swap one out if you've already got 3. Sending an old pawn away allows you to send their owner a gift, rate their appearance, and even select a pre-made comment all in one nice little package. From a usability standpoint, finding new pawns in the Rift is awesome because it can be as simple or complex as you need it to be. You can dig way in like I just described, or you can just hang out for a bit and see who wanders by. Whether you specifically need a healer in a cool wizard hat or just want to browse the community's crazy creations, the Rift is an excellent user experience. And that wraps it up for this week, guys. I hope I made you think, maybe even laugh, but either way, be sure to subscribe if you're enjoying the show, and don't hesitate to reach out to me if you've got any feedback or questions. I would especially love to hear about what games you'd like me to cover in the future. I've got a pretty solid list, but I would be even more interested to hear what you guys think. See you next week.